So the cursor controls in Camtasia are one set of controls that I could not live without as a daily user of Camtasia to record screens and also edit them. Why? Well, when you're recording the screen, the cursor is probably where your eyes go, and it's probably where you're looking at right now. Now, think of tools like OBS, which I happen to be using also right now, and others to record your screen. Those are good, but the cursor layer is not separatable or modifiable compared to the rest of the screen that you're recording. And there are a lot of things also that you'll find in a typical recording that you'll want to correct. So, ever see somebody, for example, obsessively underline and circle what they want you to see over and over again and keep underlining it? Perhaps you also have a still image of a screen that you want to be able to breathe life into with a cursor. Or maybe you're working on a web app, say in Windows, but you want to superimpose that screen on a macOS device to mimic the other operating system, maybe resize the cursor or replace a modified cursor. Maybe somebody recorded it with a green cursor or something with a matching one. Or maybe you want to be able to do a jump cut in your timeline and the cursor where you cut it is on the opposite side of the screen as to where the other side of the cut is, and you want to make it not look unnatural and maybe make it not look fake, so you need to be able to smooth out that transition between the cuts. Well, the good news is that with Camtasia you can fix all these different cursor issues, and today I'm going to show you how to do each. Now before I get started, no, I don't work for TechSmith, the makers of Camtasia, but I have been using it almost daily since 2009, and I've also personally paid for every version, or almost every version ever since. And most of what I'm going to show you today, you'll need Camtasia 2022 or newer, and you'll also importantly need to start with Camtasia Recorder to use a .trec file, which by the way is the same on Windows and Mac. And the MP4s that you might have recorded, say using OBS or maybe using the Snipping Tool or other mechanisms, those aren't going to work because the cursor is not a separate layer from the base image capture. So you need to have a trec file in order to start modifying with cursor effects and changing that cursor around. So why don't we start with smoothing out excessive cursor movements. Okay, so here I'm working on an application and I'm really excited about a couple different features. It's an AI app. So I really want to point out the name, my new app. It's my new app, so you can see it's my new app. And that's called the prompt to create wizard. And you can see that I've got the different functions for starter prompts. And look at the prompt. There's the prompt that you can fill out. And just to submit it, you use that arrow. Okay, so that was kind of a mess. Now, the thing that you would do to kind of start to fix this is you would look at the different cursors. And when I start moving over here, you'll notice that as I get to the My New App name, what I really want to do is just kind of park the cursor right there. And you can see that I've got cursor effects open. Now cursor effects lets me do quite a few different things. I can smooth the cursor, which is an option that I'll show in a second. And it's kind of built for that. I can create my own cursor path, and I'll show you that in a bit too. These are things that I can do to highlight it. So if I wanted to, I could make this so the cursor was yellow. Or I could make it green with a glow, or I could add the cursor highlight. I can add all these things together if I wanted to, and magnify the different areas. I personally don't like this. This is all very subjective as to what you prefer in terms of the different things you can do to like accentuate the cursor. But what I actually want to do is just take that path itself and make it a little bit less distracting. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit on the timeline. And then here, I'm going to choose right click and then edit cursor path. And when I do that, I'll use simplify existing path, and you'll see that I can create a new path or simplify an existing path. So I still have the talking points that I want to have, but there's too much stuff going on there. So let's just have a look at what this cursor is doing. So it's coming over to the right, sorry, to the left, and then it's moving back and forth. And so what we can do here, for example, is just get rid of this whole section. There we go. So now my cursor just goes and it stays parked right in that one spot. And we've got some additional cursor things going on. So then we want to say we've got the creation wizard. So we want to keep this. So this looks pretty good to us. But then I've got another kind of back and forth that I can get rid of. So there's a thing that I can do here. In this case, what I want to do is I want to split the cursor path at the playhead. Then what that's going to do is kind of create two different sections, get rid of all that additional movement that we don't want. So now it's going to go here and it's going to basically park there for a second. It's going to go a little bit to the side. And then it's going to move here. Now, what if I don't like that exact spot? So maybe I just want it to go to about the middle there. So I can just grab the cursor path itself and move it to the middle. So now I've got it here. It kind of parks there for a bit. And you'll see that I've got this other type of cursor here, which I don't really want because I don't want it to look like an edit cursor. And I can change that too. So I can, and I'm going to show you changing cursors more in a bit, but these are the recorded cursors, and I'll show you different options for that in a bit. But I'm just going to make it so it's consistently the same type of cursor in this case. So now it's going down here, that looks okay, and then I go over here, that looks okay, and it looks like there's a lot of movement going on around here. So it's going around this arrow. All I really need to do is kind of park it down by the arrow. So where I really want it is maybe I can do one turn. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I can see that. And I'm going to split the cursor. I'm going to split the cursor path here at this point. Yep, right there. And then I am going to get rid of all this movement till it's about right there. And I'm going to split it again. Okay, now we're going to get rid of all the stuff in the middle. Okay, so now my cursor goes to here. It's not quite where I want it. I actually want it under there, so I can just grab it and I can put it right underneath my arrow because I wanted to accentuate the arrow. And then I keep going and I say, here's my prompt. So I'm going back and forth. That's a lot. So what I really want is maybe for the cursor to park about right there. So I'm going to split the head again, split cursor path, and then get rid of all of this junk here before it goes to that section. So I want to say split cursor path at playhead here and get rid of all that. So now I look at my cursor path, it goes down here. It says I've got this here, but I want again to make sure it's the arrow. So I'm going to put the arrow in that place. I'm going to look at all these things. So these are not the arrows that I want. I want the normal arrow. So I'll get to where that's selected. You can see it's yellow here, and I'll select my arrow. And again, I'm going to select the arrow and keep going, selecting the arrow again. And here it goes away again, so I'll select that arrow. And it stays there until I'm ready to move again. And I'll select the arrow. And now I have this mess of stuff. So same type of thing that I want to do here. I'm going to wait till I get to about there, and I'm going to split my cursor head again. Split cursor path at playhead. Leave it there. And just keep it kind of where it's at. Split it again. The playhead, and get rid of everything in the middle. So now, when I do this, it's looking good. And when I do that, it's looking good. So let's go ahead and play this and see what it sounds and what it looks like. Okay, so here I'm working on an application and I'm really excited about a couple different features. It's an AI app. So I really want to point out the name, my new app. It's my new app, so you can see it's my new app. And that's called the Prompt to Create Wizard. And you can see that I've got the different functions for starter prompts. And look at the prompt. There's the prompt that you can fill out. And just to submit it, you use that arrow. Okay, so those were just a few options for smoothing out the cursor. Now let's add some cursors to a still image or maybe a mocked up user interface like you might create, say, in Figma or PowerPoint. All right, so this time I'm actually inside of my different visuals that I have. These are still pictures from, if I go back to my media bin, you will see that these are images 1, 2, 3, 4 of the sequence of the app. Basically, I would show everything that was there. I need to click on the kind of the tile on the right here, and then click down here as if I'm pasting in content, and then as if I'm clicking on the arrow to proceed, I need to do that. So I've got a bunch of different still images that I need to place a cursor on because they are just still images. So let's go ahead and do that. So the way that you do that is you use the cursor effects. And here I'm going to do cursor path creator. I'm going to drag it down into this one. And it's actually pretty close to where I want it to be. So I just want to drag it up to here. And you'll see that if I play it, the cursor kind of comes down here and it's a decent path. Like maybe I'll go down a little bit from there. But if you want to make it even a little bit better, so this is a fairly large path for the cursor to go down. And it's got these are things that you can do for it to kind of curve, like with a parabolic curve. So I can adjust that if I want to. I've got that there. If I click on any of these, you can see that this is the type of, basically the type of end that's on it. So if it was to continue on, I could make another double curve on that. In my case, I just want it to be clicking here. This is a web page though, so part of this is we need to actually make it look believable. So if you do it right, I want from about there, this to look like a little hand. So I'm going to add a cursor change, which is what we do with the plus sign here. And now these are Windows cursors. So I can use the recorded cursors if I had it on a recorded track. And if you do record it, you basically have to make your cursor track completely invisible, which I might show you in the next one. But this one didn't have any cursor on it, remember? So I need to basically make this into a hand, because if these are like active hyperlinked tiles, which they would be in a real app, then you want to be able to mimic that effect. So then I'm not going to, I could add another arrow right there to show, which I might do just in case I want to be like super thorough in terms of realism. But I would do that, maybe go a couple to the right, and then go back to the hand, and then keep going. And I'm going to use the frame by frame movement here. That's going to be a hand because all that would be linked theoretically. Now right there, I might want to do one more change in cursor and go another frame or two forward, add another change, and it should be this squared off hand. And these are all vector graphics, so I can make them even really big if I want to. So let's say I want to go, I've got mine set for 150% by default, which you can do in the properties of Camtasia. But in this case, Camtasia actually, I think by default normally goes 225. So I'll set it to 225 so you can really see the size of the hand. And now I'm basically clicking on that tile. So let's say I'm clicking on it, so I need to shorten this track because I want to show that as a result of clicking on the tile, you see this text here is copied down here because it's part of the trick that I'm doing on the cursor move. So now I need to add another cursor path. So I'm going to do this. Now we've got another minor problem, which is the cursor started here. So I need to take this guy, and I need to not have as much of kind of the parabolic curve set up. But I do want to, and just a kind of a ninja trick, I do want to go, let's say we'll go here, right? And I still want the curve, and that's going to make it look a bit more natural. So I'll go ahead and add the curve. I clicked on it. Now we want to make this into the hand because it's still the hand. We're going to want to make it 225 because that's what the other track was. And we probably want to move this down a bit. So let's look at our timing. So I clicked on it, and I'm going to go down, and that's where, again, if you want it to look real, you're going to go back to about there. Add another cursor point or change. Go to the pointer. Then go down. And then we go back to, then we go, actually no, we don't do that. We go to a different style of cursor, which would be a text edit style cursor, so that we can actually get ready to edit the text. So now I'm pretending like I'm pasting in the value for something else. So we'll stay there. So I need to add another cursor path. So let's add another one. So now I need this starting point again to be where that point was, which is there. I need to, oops, let me just do this and get it back onto the canvas so we can see it. I need that there. I need this here. And I'll move this in. I'll take that to where it is, again, this, and 225%. Okay. And now we actually want it to go down to the arrow as if we're submitting the prompt. So we want to go back down here, right? And then as it goes down, it's going to be a pretty short path, so we have to shorten the length. When it gets close to that, we're going to add another new cursor and go to a hand. Okay. So now we're pretending like we're clicking on that little guy, which is the button that would basically submit the prompt. So once we click on the prompt, then you see that there's a return screen here. And now we need to add our cursor path one last time. Again, back to 225. We'll make it the square hand. We won't need to move this hand, by the way. We can actually get rid of the second point of the prompt, to be honest. And I'll just move this down here, and I'll match it up with where that one was. So we want to be right at the tip of that finger, basically. And if it moves ever so slightly, you don't usually notice it, but let me just go down a little bit so that it's almost perfect. There we go. So it's going to go down, and then you're going to see this come in, basically the completion of the prompt. So that's more or less what you want. Now, let me just add a couple more things here just to be a little bit pedantic. I'm going to add an annotation, a block, and I'm going to cover up all this stuff. And we're going to make one more thing where we kind of pretend like the prompt is completing as it goes down. So the first thing we're going to do is match this to the background color. So now I have that, and then I'll pretend like it's completing about there. So I'm going to add a split. And then we're going to take this and we're going to drag it down a little bit as if it's done that first little section. And we're going to do another one, add another split, and you can use the S button as or S key, I should say, as a shortcut. But we're going to go ahead and pull that down as if it just did number 2. And then we'll do one more, maybe 2 more. We'll do one more like this, and then then at the end we will get rid of it, which will expose our copy button. All right, so let's play this, and this is completely without any audio. Clicked on that. Now I can edit the topic, and it does the prompt completion, and there's our copy button. Now we're at the end of that scene. Now you can narrate it or do whatever you want with it. All right, so let's see what this looks like assembled. So I'm going to click on my starter prompt. Now I'm going to see that everything goes in. I'm going to paste in additional information, submit my prompt. Then we'll see the completion start to happen, and it completes its answer. And by the way, if you're getting value from this and want to see more, donate a like, just a like, or subscribe to my channel. It really helps. But why don't we move on to replacing the cursor type altogether? Okay, so this time we want to do something a little bit different. We want to actually pretend like this Windows recorded demo is actually going to work on a Mac, which is a little bit tricky because I've got some window Chrome that looks like Windows in terms of the browser Chrome and those types of things. So I need to manipulate first the canvas, and then after I do that, I can actually go into the cursor itself. So let's just for the sake of being kind of fast, I'll take this and I'll kind of crop in a little bit so you can't really tell which operating system I'm running. So that kind of gets us done for that. So now the next problem is my cursor is the recorded cursor, and you'll see that it's using recorded cursors for Windows in our case. What we want to do is actually make it a Mac cursor and probably make it a bit bigger. So the first thing I'm going to do is change it to 225 again, just so it makes it larger. And now this is where it gets pretty cool because you're going from the recorded cursor, which is not a vector drawing, and you can do Windows cursors or Mac cursors. So, and you can actually have your own custom cursors. There's even themed ones for like Valentine's Day and stuff. But the Windows cursor, what we saw before, they're the different kind of vector graphics for each of the cursor types. But here I actually want to pretend like I'm using a Mac. So I'm going to go ahead and use Mac cursors. So now what we want to do is we want to keep this similar, normally by default is on current. We want to keep the similar thing changed. So now, because we're going for Mac cursors, we're going to want to use the dark colored cursors in place of the light colored cursors. So it looks more like a Mac. So this is the one we want here. And because I've got similar select, it's going to take all the arrows, and you'll see it changed all of the arrows to the black arrows. All right, so that's part of it. Now we want to take our little hands, because we want to make the Windows hands go to the Mac style hamburger helper style hands, which are these little guys, or Mickey Mouse hands, however you want to call them. That's the technical term from apple.com. So now I've got the Mickey Mouse hands. So now every time I go down, I can change basically my cursor. So now if I want to take, for example, I'm in this text edit field and I want to make my Mickey Mouse hand cursor change to this text style editor cursor, I can do that too. I'm going to first make sure that it's only going to do current so it doesn't change all of my hands. I'm going to select the one I want, which is this text editor. You can see it kind of goes back to a hand a second time, so I'm still in current. I'm going to select the next one. Now I'm going to pretend like I'm pasting in my text, and that's what we wanted. And now if I move back here, I'm going to want Mickey Mouse hand again, so I'm going to go click and add a cursor. We'll put the Mickey Mouse cursor hand back on, and now we'll leave that as it is until the prompt completes, and we'll keep even this one. Actually, we'll leave that one as an arrow, so that looks pretty good. So we'll keep it just like this, as if we did this whole demo from a Mac in a browser with the browser full screened, and you can't really tell that it was recorded on a Windows device. So here's the same application. This time I've actually done internal links within PowerPoint to make the same type of effect work. So I've linked this tile to slide 2, which basically shows the text from the tile into the prompt. Then I click on another one, which basically takes us to slide 3. And then the arrow takes us to slide 4. And I've also got kind of animations by using appears at the paragraph level. So it looks like the AI is completing the prompt response kind of line by line. Last, and one of the most common issues to fix, is an unnatural cursor jump in your timeline when, say, you do a jump cut from one side of the screen to the other. Now I'm going to show you how to fix that. Okay, so this should be pretty quick. So here I'm back on our timeline. I'm back kind of in full screen mode so we can tell it's Windows again. I've got my cursors down here, and you'll see I've got a cut here, a split. And it's going to jump from this side of the screen. You can see it here. And right after the jump, it goes to that side of the screen. So now what do you do? Because that's a massive jump. And who knows, maybe it was load time, something else that we're trying to cover up. So the first thing that you can do is actually try out the smooth cursor across edits capability within Camtasia. So once I do that, I select the two tracks that are next to each other. And I'll just go ahead and play it, and we'll see what it looks like. So it kind of moves straight across, and that's actually not too bad. But there are kind of better ways if you don't want it to be, because that looks very fakey because it's such a perfectly straight movement. So there are things that you can do here as well, for example, where if I edit the cursor path, let's go back, let's just select this one, and we're going to do edit cursor path. We can do simplify existing path, and we can see that this is the last thing that we're mousing over, and we've got some space here until the next one. So let's go ahead and take this then. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to say extend cursor path to playhead. All right, so now the cursor path going to the playhead kind of knows where it wants to go. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually take this. I'm going to take this cursor, which is actually this dot here because it's selected. I'm going to move it down here, closer to where the end point of where it should be is, because I want it to look a bit smoother. And now here's where that kind of curving comes in. So the cursor curves, and we want to add to this curve. So let's say we want to take this one and we'll make it a bit more natural, because normally your cursor is going to move down and it's going to have a bit of an arc to it, so it looks more natural. Now if we look here, this is where you can see I've got the double curve, and so now if I want to, I can kind of round it out so it looks again more, probably a bit more human in terms of its path. So we can say it's going to make a nice arc down here, pause, then go, and it looks like it's more or less like a person would normally move the cursor. So that's a lot cleaner now. So what we've done is, instead of just using the normal smooth cursor across edits, which is pretty good again for kind of a shorter run, if you want it to look good, you want to add a little bit of curve to it, and there we go. And just for the sake of detail, let's go ahead and add hand to it. So we'll select this path and we'll make it another hand. There we go. And that's it. Now let's take a look at it. I'm not going to replay it this time because it's a pretty basic one, but running down the different left nav elements, then it kind of arcs over, changes to a hand, and we're on the next topic. Okay, so now you know the tricks for controlling your cursor. Probably the most important thing that your audience will follow on the screen if it's visible, so it's super important. Hopefully this helped. If you like this trick and really want to up your demo game, you'll want to also check out how you can use desktops and Windows for the cleanest possible app-to-app transitions. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you soon.